have to be honest. Okay. Feminism does not make room for the women who really choose their own lives, right? For women who say, you know what, I actually do want to be a wife. I do want to be alongside a great man who's going places, right? I do want to support somebody else's destiny. I want to be an amazing mother, right? I actually just want to own a ceramic studio. Like, it doesn't make space for that. And you're not going to sit here and tell me that it does. It absolutely doesn't. First and foremost, the requirement is anti-male. Okay, it's anti-male. Y'all don't want to talk about it, but it's anti-male. Let me tell you why it's anti-male and why you can't sit here and convince me that it's not anti-male. Because it was predicated on anti-male. Okay, that was the entire premise. It was about lesbianism. That's kind of where that's where it went. That's where it went. You don't want to believe me? Ask Bell Hooks. And so I think when you start talking about, feminism, and then you see like this shift of women who are feeling empowered in their, could be material, economic positioning. But it always kind of comes at the expense of women's internal and emotional lives, right? Like, I always kind of notice how for a lot of women who are in the space of like radical feminism, they sometimes they just have to change and contort themselves to kind of fit the mission. You know what I mean? Like, whether it's being, like, a lot of makeup or whatever the case may be, or whether it's feeling like it's feeling like you can't actually be yourself, whether that's artistic, whether that's, wearing makeup, it's like, oh, you're doing this for the male gaze. And I just think that we got to put a stop to it, because I feel like it's actually creating a lot more harm. And the harm that I'm talking about specifically is in regards to young girls. I think young women need messages to say, hey, be yourself, right? Honor yourself, be in alignment with what it is that you want for your life. What do you want to do? Okay, you want to be a wife, you want to be a mother, okay, that's great. You don't want to be a wife, you don't want to be a mother, that's great. But the messages of like what it should look like is way too dominating on the other side. And I also think that, if we're going to talk about choices, if we're going to talk about feminism, I think we need to talk about consequence. I think we need to talk about the very real consequence of making certain choices, especially based off movements and fads and trends and things like that can really alter your life. And I think it's not always a matter of like relationally, but just, personal choices, personal sacrifices that I think a lot of young women make to enter into this community. And I don't think that, like with any institution, you know what I mean? They don't actually hold you when you cry, right? They don't actually hold you when it's all said and done and the choices are made. So I think that in this young age where young women are trying to figure out who to be, I think the message, from feminists and scholars and any other woman with a platform or in position needs to be yourself. Be yourself. I think that's what it needs to be. I think it needs to be yourself, love yourself, and follow your intuition.